Welcome back to Open House with Mark Siwiec and Corey James Moran, brought to you by the Mark Siwiec Team at Keller Williams Realty, a greater Rochester real estate podcast. We do have a special guest, though. Mark's not feeling well, so pinch hitting, filling in, the COO of our team, Ed Kelm. Ed, welcome.
Corey, thanks for having me. It's too bad that Mark's not here to do the podcast, but as probably the show's biggest fan and how I got the job here, I'm excited to be here. I'm a little nervous. I don't know if I can live up to Mark and the job he does, but I'm happy to try.
Just be yourself, Ed. That's all you have to do. I want to throw it out there. A little conspiracy theory. The timing is a little bit odd. Mark is now sick the same week as your 1-year work anniversary.
Yeah.
And here you are finally filling in on the podcast that I would say, was a good contributor to why you ended up getting the job, since for those that are unaware, Ed listened literally to every single episode prior to his interview.
Yeah, it's true. December 12th is my 1 year with the Mark Siwiec team. And so is it a coincidence that the same week that happens, I'm here on the show? I don't know. I know during that year my name's come up a few times, but I've never had the privilege of sitting here. So the conspiracy theorists can think what they want.
Okay, put your tinfoil hats on. You do what you do. Go on Reddit. Make a subreddit, whatever. There's lots to get to here real estate-wise, though. It's been a really, really, really busy week, which is why we wanted to make sure we still pushed out an episode. So again, thank you for filling in. Certainly do appreciate it. Before we jump into a little bit of real estate, though, we like to start a little personal stuff. How is the preparations for the holiday coming up? Christmas right around the corner.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it, before we started recording, and I'm responsible for pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
My wife does everything, gets presents for the kids, and makes sure family members are taken care of with presents. And all I have to do is buy for her, more or less, and pick up items from the store that she tells me to.
Sure, yeah. Literally, just an errand boy.
Yes, and I still struggle. I feel behind, but I did get a lot accomplished today, which made me happy.
There we go. That's good stuff. I actually was speaking to another friend recently who said that his wife has an Excel spreadsheet for all of the gifts, of who they're coming from, what everyone is getting, dollar amounts, all that. Is your wife to that level? I mean, my wife's very type A, but I don't think there's an Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's spreadsheets for this year, and then also,
here we go.
What did we spend? We can go back to 2010.
Of course.
If you want.
So you're a spreadsheet family. This isn't just you. Ed is famous in our office for his spreadsheets.
I don't know if we're a spreadsheet family, but organizational and planning type things, my wife is all over that. And this particular event, this is the best way to plan and organize. So hence Excel spreadsheet.
Okay, there we go. All right, well, I'm glad it's coming along. I knocked everything out in one day. Boom, earlier this week.
I like
everybody.
That. Efficient.
Everybody.
You sound efficient.
I try. I try to get it done. I don't want it lingering. I don't want to feel how you were feeling today. So just done. I didn't pressure my wife, though. There's one more thing she wants, but she's not sure if she wants item A or item B. She's really dragging her feet, and it's making me a little bit nervous. So I don't know if it's going to make it here in time.
So how does that work in your house? Does she give you specific things?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. There was a time where I went a little rogue and just thought, I'm going to try to get some nice, thoughtful things that, weren't directed to me, and that did not go well. So now we are a list family in terms of gift giving.
So that list that she has is also for you.
Yeah.
Like all the other gifts and you.
What do you mean? Like the gifts that she's giving to me, or that
gifts that she's giving to other people, but then also she gives a list to you to go pick up.
100%. Yeah. We're in the same boat. I feel like we're in a very similar situation.
I know a lot of people that are. I think it's just, I don't know.
So it's the marriage dynamic.
I feel fortunate. I just show up places on Christmas.
There we go.
I'm as surprised as the kids.
All right. You want to jump into a little bit of real estate?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's get our market update here. Things are dying down a little bit again, which is what the expectation was. And it was kind of surprising that we saw a tiny bit of an uptick. But in terms of new listings, Monroe County is at 380. That's down from 411 last week. 6 County region, it's down a little bit more than that, actually. 717 right now for new listings. And that is 898 from last week. So pretty significant drop, more so again in the other regions outside of Monroe County. Monroe County, there's still a little bit of activity, but we'll see.
It's the season, right?
Supposed to be.
It's supposed to be slow. I know that we've sold a little bit more on the team here than we did last December.
Sure.
But still, at the same time, it's who wants to sell their home around the holiday? Who wants to go look at houses, the weekend before Christmas?
Sure, totally. And part of the fact that there's still some that are happening, because it is a little bit out of the norm, and that's been the topic of some previous podcasts we've done, is because of the fact that a lot of the people that are selling are doing so out of necessity. So it's not really we'll just wait till spring. It's more like, well, we need to get this sold now. So that's why I think it's lingering a little bit. And we'll see if that trend continues, into next year. In terms of properties under contract, that number has gone up. So the properties that were for sale are now either under contract or pending. Monroe County, 856. That is up from 758 last week. And then for the 6-county region, we're at 1319. That is up from 1374. So again, a good amount of stuff being sold in Monroe County based on those numbers as well. But that's not the big story, Ed.
Tell me what the big story is, Corey. You let me know.
Mortgage interest rates.
Yes.
Have you seen the latest?
I saw, Mark, before he was down and out.
Incapacitated.
Geez, I hope he's okay, honestly.
Before Ed poisoned him so he could do this podcast?
I would never joke about Mark's health in any way. He sent the text saying that they were heading in the right direction and that there's good news on the horizon with, the Fed and what they're going to do with rates in 2024.
So a number of things have happened since we were able to podcast last. One was the jobs report came out. Again, these are the big key indicators about, what is going to happen with inflation, and then obviously, in turn, what is going to happen with these interest rates. So it was a little stronger than expected for the jobs report, actually. It came in at 199,000 for the month of November. And that was up slightly from 190,000, which was the expectation from the Dow Jones. Unemployment rate declined as well to 3.7%. That was a little bit below the forecast of 3.9%. So again, there's a strong labor force happening here, but it's not what we've been seeing recently. So it's not going to put things into a panic and cause the Fed to continue to want to raise their rate to control that. Sure. Some of the interesting things, though, healthcare was the biggest growth industry. So that was 77,000 new jobs were added for healthcare. Other biggest gainers include the government, 49,000, manufacturing was 28,000, and leisure and hospitality was 40,000, which that's been what we've seen the biggest jumps from, leisure and hospitality, which again, when you're thinking about timing of things and coming off the pandemic, kind of makes sense.
Right. I mean, we're still, we're almost 4 years later, but still that industry is recovering and, people are now, I think, feeling more confident than ever about going out and doing those leisure activities, getting back to traveling and feeling good about it.
Well, that and I think people running out of money that weren't working, to be honest, is another factor in play. I mean, we're getting stimulus is there for quite a bit. That money's now run dry, so time to get back to work. But again, healthcare being the highest, kind of interesting. The other big indicator that came out was the consumer price index. And that actually rose by 0.1%. So we're up to 3.1% from a year ago. It was 3% back in October. So again, we're not seeing that drop to the 2% that the Fed would like to see. But again, it's not as big of an increase that's going to cause issues, which gets us to our third and most important point here, is that the Fed, the Federal Reserve, they met and they have decided to not raise the key interest rate in December, which was expected. And then what's really kind of made things a little bit crazy, they are now predicting, I believe, 3 rate decreases for 2024.
Yeah, and that was big news. I mean, I saw yesterday that the market really rallied around that, up over 500 points just yesterday alone. So, obviously that news is driving, driving the market in the right direction, which is helping to bolster the economy.
Well, that, and then look at where mortgage interest rates are. So last week, when we were recording, we were at 7.08% for the 30-year, according to Mortgage News Daily. We're down to 6.62% today.
Wow.
That's
huge.
There was a 0.27% drop on Wednesday, and then today we're recording on Thursday. There was another 0.2% drop, which is pretty significant when you think about it. So
that's a huge fluctuation. I mean, especially because it wasn't that long ago that we were staring 8% right in the face.
It was over 8, absolutely. For the 15-year, we're at 6.15%. That is down from 6.5%. And then for the adjustable rate, it's at 6.24. That's down from 6.68%. Now, I guess The good news here is that we're trending in the right direction. This is the 7th consecutive week where they've continued to decline. I guess the negative part of this, at least for us, again, being a seasonal market, is that buyers aren't really necessarily taking advantage of these really low rates right now.
That's something that I know Josh on our team pointed out was, hey, this is great right now,
Yeah.
but will these rates hold coming into the spring market when our buyers start to come out of hibernation and are ready to start looking at homes again?
Again, if the trend continues and we've had all this positive economic data that is driving this, everything the Fed is saying, what's happening with the yield, it's all saying that it should continue in this direction. If you've been following this at all for the past year, you know that it could very quickly turn on a dime. So it could be a little bait and switch situation, as Josh was referring to, but only time will tell there. I mean, we can speculate about, again, if this does continue on, what does that mean? For sellers, guess what? We're reverting back to 2021, 2022. Maybe not to that level because we're not going to have rates down in 3%, obviously, but it's going to be a more attractive number for potential buyers. So increased buyer activity, increase in the amount of offers, and again, most likely increase in home prices.
Sure. And where, Corey, from your perspective, this is usually where Mark jumps in and gives his analysis, right? Because that's what he does. So from your perspective, obviously that's going to be favorable for buyers, but we know the inventory is low. So
for sellers.
For sellers, yes. For sellers, homes on the market, inventory is low. If there's not homes to buy, will more people sell their home knowing will they be more likely to move, to buy that bigger home, that forever home from their starter home, which we just haven't been seeing. To your point, it's been people that have been out of necessity that are selling their home. Will we see more people that want to upgrade their home come back out and sell their home because they can afford to buy a new home with lower interest rates?
Well, we talked about it last week, and we mentioned the stat that Rochester ranks number 3 in the country for the biggest drop in the number of listings over the past 4 years. So, is that just going to turn around on a dime with the rates that we're seeing now? The answer to that question is no, I don't think so. I think, it's going to be primarily driven by those that need to sell. That's going to continue on. The number we've been saying for literally over the past year is we need to get back to like 5.5, maybe 5, before we really unlock a lot of the inventory. Because again, you own a home, you're sitting on a 3% interest rate. Who wants to trade it in for, even 6.2 or 6.6?
It's better than we've seen, but it's still not where you're going to trade your old mortgage in.
Right. So we're kind of in that limbo, that gray area where, it might entice some people just because they know that, there's going to be increased buyer activity. Not that it was really bad this year, but just to, a higher level. It's going to be even easier to sell now. Now, on the other side of that, if you're a buyer, well, it just got more competitive.
Right. That's going back to the beginning of this year. I know we had so many multiple bid situations on homes that we listed. It was really tough for our buyers to prevail. And we saw towards the fall in September, October, we had buyers that were prevailing more frequently because there wasn't as much competition as interest rates rose. It's going to be, again, those tough conversations that we're having with buyers and really, that's what our team does best, is giving advice to our buyers of what does the offer need to be competitive in this situation? And that's frequently why our team prevails. But again, there's also those tough conversations when there's nothing we can do to prevail sometimes.
Yeah, it really is a lot of it's luck. And I say it, I tell my people all the time, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. But in reality, it's kind of what you have to do. You bang your head against the wall until you break through. Because sooner or later, maybe it's offer 5, maybe it's offer 20. Hopefully it's not 20, but it could be. Eventually, it's going to be in your favor and you will win. But, it's a weird dynamic, right? Because obviously a lot of buyers have headed to the sideline due to what interest rates were at. But those that stuck it out, as you said, in the long run may be better off because they have secured that house, their foot is in the door, and they can refinance when things get lower. So again, still being in that gray area, it's still an opportunity, I think, for a lot of buyers to jump in now. And I don't think we're going to see the same kind of activity, certainly that we did when it was 3% or even 4%. But it is going to be increased. again, if all the things stay the same.
Awesome.
Or head in the right direction.
Thanks for the analysis. I'm looking forward to it. I think that on our team here, we've talked about it in our team meetings the last couple of weeks. We have a really exciting 2024 already lined up for January with listings that we know that we have coming up. So with buyers coming back out with lower interest rates, I think it's
good
gonna
timing.
It's going to be pretty good for our team. So I'm
Hopefully.
excited for it.
Unless of course this all completely turns on its head in the next month or so.
Well, that's this week.
But
by the time you and Mark record, the first one after the holidays, who knows?
Yeah, for sure. I briefly mentioned refinancing. This was kind of interesting and just really wanted to touch on it quick. But mortgage refinance demands jumped 19% last week.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of interesting. And again, you have to imagine that's most likely people that have purchased somewhat recently,
sure,
that are trying to take advantage of the rates coming down a little bit. So expect that number to jump.
Those folks that married the house but are dating the rate.
There you go. Yes. As everyone's been throwing around the term.
That's a thing, right? That's a saying?
Yeah, we talked about it on the podcast. Look at you. See, a true pro right there. And then one other thing to touch on here before we jump into a little bit of celebrity real estate. This was an interesting stat. 45% of U.S. real estate agents say they're struggling to pay their office rent. Is that number surprising to you?
45%.
45%.
Yeah, it's we talk about here in the office how we were fortunate enough on our team that we increased sales, but how many of the other folks that we talk to, your colleagues in the real estate profession, have said how challenging of a year they had, how much they've, how many people we know or have talked to throughout this year are down 20 to 25%. So yeah, it makes sense, but geez, I wouldn't have thought it would have been 45%. I would have guessed maybe somewhere 20%, something like that.
Yes, this was a monthly report by Alignable. So the stat is 45% of real estate agents who own their firms said they were having trouble paying rent on their offices. This is for November. Wow. That's 5% higher than October, 10% higher than September. And don't get it twisted. We've had a good year. We've sold more than we did last year. But it's been a grind.
It's been hard. It's been hard. Talking to the folks in the office, our listing coordinator, Julie, it's the folks that are selling out of necessity, the death, divorce, downsizing, right? And by downsizing, I mean, you're moving because you're moving into assisted care, that type of thing. So it's been really, really difficult because it's not the easiest when you're trying to list an estate, a house that's owned by an estate,
sure,
or when you're trying to put together both sides of a divorce situation to agree.
It's such an emotional thing, right?
Right. It's I know, talking to the team and Julie specifically has mentioned how big of a grind it was this last year. So we were very fortunate, but it wasn't easy by any means.
No. So hopefully maybe we get a little bit of reprieve from that next year, but I don't know. Probably not. It's going to be a lot of the same situations, most likely. So
what do you think it means for that 45% that are struggling? Are we going to see a mass exodus from the profession?
100%. Absolutely. I mean, there's not even a question. There's really already been a pretty significant exodus. There's been, 60,000 agents have left the industry in the last 6 months.
Wow.
Which is a large number.
For sure.
I mean, think about what 2021, 2022 were like as an agent. I mean, especially on the listing side, like you're throwing a sign on the front yard and you're good. Like really, that's how easy it was.
A roof and four walls, right?
Pretty much.
I hear Mark talk about it on the show all the time.
Yeah, 100%. It was really, really easy. This year, not so much. I had to put some more work in. So I think folks have realized that maybe this isn't exactly what I want to do. So they're going to, find something else to do. And that's fine. Those that will stick around will, persevere and survive in advance, if you will.
Yet another reason why I'm excited for 2024 on our team.
Yeah, less competition. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. All right, I want to jump to a little celebrity real estate. You're a sports guy, so I'm glad.
Absolutely.
This actually worked out pretty well because I prepped this prior to knowing we were going to have Ed filling in for Mark. But we're going to start with boxing legend Sugar Ray Leonard, who's having a little bit of a tough time here. He had to knock $4 million off the price of his Pacific Palisades mansion.
I'm I'm just taking a look here at the pictures.
There's a lot going on with this one. It's very busy again.
This definitely isn't my style.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to think about this one, Corey.
So you're telling me you wouldn't pay $39,995,000 for this property?
I don't think so. I mean, even if I had it, the setup's not great for me. It's not great for me. It feels cold. Looking at these pictures, this property feels very cold. I'm not paying anything for this. I mean, I hope he sells
nothing. I'll give you $1. $1. This one is an 8-bedroom mansion, by the way. It was listed for $44 million over the summer. Didn't sell, thus the price drop. Leonard and his wife have lived there for decades, but are now looking to downsize. A couple of years back, they had actually listed the 16,850 square foot house as high as $52 million.
Wow. So you're saying they didn't just throw a sign up in the front yard?
It did not work. Yeah, it did not work.
Okay.
The next one we're going to get to, I know you're a fan of. Are you a baseball guy?
Not really. Yeah. No, not so much.
But you are certainly familiar with former MLB All-Star Johnny Damon.
Yes, of course. I think that's.
Is this more your alley?
Yeah, this is more my alley.
No pun intended, since there literally is a bowling alley, 2 of them in this house.
Oh my God, I love bowling. So if I ever had the opportunity to have a home that had not just one bowling alley but 2, you probably would never see me, or you would know where to find me if you came to my house. And hopefully that those bowling lanes aren't located too far from the sports bar.
Well, listen to this setup. You literally wouldn't have to leave the house. So it was built in 2010. It's slightly larger, 20,000 square feet. So plenty of space there. 540 feet of gorgeous water frontage. And it does have the bowling alley. It has a sports bar. It has a karaoke room. You a karaoke guy?
It depends how many
vibes you are.
I've had in any given night.
Sure, fair, yeah.
You can get me on stage.
If you're feeling brave, yeah. There's a music loft, a home theater, and an arcade in this place as well.
Wow. This is definitely, I might buy this one. I don't know.
Yeah. So, $30 million for this one's the price tag.
Okay, well, I won't be buying it today.
Today, yeah. This is in Windermere, Florida, by the way, where this 9-bedroom, 17-bath home is located.
That's one thing I never understood about these massive homes.
Yeah, 17 bathrooms.
How many people are using the bathroom at one time that you need 17?
That's a great question. I mean, why do you need 20,000 square feet?
I don't know.
Why do you need 2 bowling alleys instead of just 1 bowling alley?
Well, I mean, I could justify 2 lanes.
Sure.
I mean, if you even have, 4 or 5 people over, you're going to want to get through your games.
Yeah,
quickly.
sure, of course. Yeah. You wouldn't want to be delayed going to the sports bar, which is a walk over there.
But if you have a bowling alley in your home, is Johnny Damon walking down the lane when the pins don't set up correctly or when the ball gets stuck behind it?
It's a great question. I would imagine there's some kind of maintenance person that looks at things, but yeah, I do not know. I've never been invited over to Johnny's house, sadly.
Huh. I'm going to send an email, see if I can get in there.
All right, the last one, rapper Kendrick Lamar, as we break away from our sports theme here.
I'm sad that Mark is missing.
He's a big fan.
I know he loves Kendrick Lamar.
Yep. That's why I had it as the closer. Kendrick scooped up an $8.6 million Brooklyn penthouse. It's a 4-bedroom, 3.5-bath penthouse in Brooklyn. He recently purchased it for $8.6 million. It's 3,140 square feet. And it was finished in 2015. This one has a couple of layers as well. Thoughts on this one? If you're looking at a penthouse, is obviously a very different kind of structure here.
Sure.
Is this your vibe?
Yeah, I do like this. It's got modern, clean finishes. There's no bowling alley, but I can definitely see myself here, especially not as a family guy, but if I was single, maybe this is a place I would look at. And also, of course, if I had the ability to afford the $8.6 million price tag, it's good. It's clean, modern, like I said. I like this one.
Okay. All right. There you go. Well, that's all we have planned for this week. Anything you want to add here on your debut episode?
Yeah, this is usually the part where it breaks down, and Mark, you can really get Mark fired up at this part of the podcast. But no,
He randomly plays music. Yeah, sure.
I just no, I don't have anything to add. I know we talked about when we were prepping to record, we said maybe we talk about Patrick Mahomes and
Ed is a big Bills fan,
some of his crying, but I don't think we need to bore our real estate listeners with that
with the crybaby.
I just. I'm happy to be here filling in for Mark. I hope the listeners still, when you hear it's me and not Mark, still listen to the remainder of the podcast.
Well, if you have, you're in for a treat. Give us your prediction for the rest of the Bills season. Ready, set, go.
It's hard. I think the Bills make the playoffs.
Okay. They sneak in.
And
okay.
this is a different thought than I had maybe before the Kansas City game. But especially if the Bills beat Dallas this week, they're going to win the AFC East. The Dolphins...
It's going to fold.
Yeah, the Dolphins still have the Ravens and the Cowboys on the road. And the Bills play the Chargers, who Justin Herbert's out for the season, and the Patriots after the Cowboys. So
In the Bill Belichick farewell tour.
The Bill Belichick farewell tour. So if the Bills beat Dallas... Miami drops one of those games. Essentially, the final game of the season is an AFC East championship game because the Bills and Dolphins play Week 18.
Sure.
So, look, remember this. Come back to this. If the Bills win Sunday, they are going to win the AFC East and have a home playoff game. Even with a loss this week, I think 3-1 gets them in. They'll be 10-7. They'll get one of those 3 wild card slots. But it's wild with 5 teams tied at 7-6.
It is kind of crazy. How do you think they're going to fare should they make the playoff?
I don't think any team is going to want to play Buffalo in the playoffs.
They've rallied around McDermott after the hit piece.
Yeah, I'm going to skip that. I support Tyler Dunn's article. I'm not going to get into that, but I do think they're going to be one of the more dangerous teams if they make the AFC field because Josh Allen. A lot of people have been ragging Josh Allen because of the interceptions, but look at his numbers. He's having an absolutely incredible year, leads the league in total touchdowns.
Turnover differential is an important number, not just the picks you throw. How many TDs are you throwing too?
Right. So it's he's having an incredible year. If they were 10-3 instead of 7-6, he'd probably be the front runner for the NFL MVP.
Okay. All right. Strong words.
Yes.
I mean, listen, it would be very Bills for the year they finally win the Super Bowl is a year they essentially kind of sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, sneak in and it's after that hit piece, like you said, it would be fitting for McDermott to then lead them to a Super Bowl. But yeah, I could talk about this for hours. I know we don't have hours.
That's why I wanted to end with it as opposed to lead with it.
Just tell me to stop talking.
No, it was great analysis. I appreciate it. Thank you for filling in for Mark.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. Like I said, I'm huge fan of the show. Love the show.
Go.
Corey's trying to walk me through of this is kind of how we do things. I said, Corey, don't.
You've got a broadcast degree.
I do.
From the illustrious SUNY Oswego.
Yeah, I mean, it is. You're kind of laughing at that, but Steve Levy, Linda Cohn, Al Roker.
I know Steve Levy well. I've had many conversations with him.
Those may be broadcasters you've heard of. You've never heard of Ed Kelm before. I assure you of that.
You have today, though. Ed, thank you for filling in. Hopefully, Mark's going to be feeling better, and we'll have him back again next week.
Yes, Mark. Get well soon, Mark.
But either way, we've got Ed here if we need him.
And if you don't get better, Mark, I'll be here next week.
That's not helping conspiracy theories. It's not helping at all. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you next week.